Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. About 18 months ago, Lorna Slater had a bright idea for the deposit return scheme, and everybody says, please don't. It's a very inefficient scheme, it doesn't work, it's very expensive, it won't help the environment. There was many objections, and yet still she pushed on with it. But key to it was having glass in there. They needed the glass in there because it was the glass that would make them money. Because although glass is massively recycled to the tune of about 90%, that goes back into the glass industry. It cuts their costs, increases their profits. They're happy with that. Meanwhile, the SNP and the Greens go, if we have their scheme and we recycle this glass, it's our glass. When we sell it back to the glass industry, we make a bit of money. And also, it's got to be our scheme so we can administer it, so we can get our hands in that cookie jar and make sure that there's backsheesh and a bit of jobs for the boys. However, the government in Westminster said, Firstly, you can't have glass. Secondly, it's going to be part as a trial scheme, a pilot scheme, for the nationwide scheme that's coming in 2025. Well, of course, the SNP don't want that. They need the glass, they need that money. And of course, if they don't run it and administer it, they can't put their hands in there to take any of the money out. So they stamped their feet, and Humza Yousaf issues an ultimatum. And of course, it's very humiliating, because rather than acquiescing to his demands or rejecting his demands, the Westminster government just quite simply ignored his demands. And he's sitting there on Monday waiting for a phone call that was destined never to arrive. And seeing this, Lorna Slater, she too stamps her tiny feet and says, no, that's not fair. And if you don't give us what we want within 10 days, we're going to cancel it. And I suppose in 10 days' time, when she doesn't get it, she'll give them another 10 days, and so on. Well, not quite, because today she's decided to call it all off and she's scrapping it. Well done, Lorna. The first thing you've got right about this entire scheme. However, I suspect by 5 o'clock today, Bibi will put an envelope in the post asking for their 200 million in compensation, and they'll just be the first. It's going to be anywhere between £500 million and £1 billion that'll have to be found. And where's that coming from? The NHS, transport, social care, or are they just going to put taxes up? Either way, it's got to be paid, and someone's going to pay for it. They will try and push it onto Westminster, but Westminster will say, we didn't announce this policy, we didn't push this policy, we didn't tell people what to do, and they'll just throw it straight back to the SNP. And that is where it belongs. We'll take a look at this article to see why the idiot has got a lot of explaining to do, and why she has just destroyed Scottish economy for maybe 10 or 15 years with one policy that hasn't even been implemented. Here goes. So, humiliation for Lorna Slater as she scraps the controversial deposit return scheme, a scheme that was never going to work. The Scottish Green Minister confirmed that the recycling initiative will now not go ahead at all, and the Scottish Government will wait for the UK-wide scheme. Do you remember about 2 months ago I said when they first announced it was being delayed till March, and I said then that is a political speech for abandoned. Well, you heard it here first, folks. I knew it would be. Lorna Slater and Humza Yousaf have been left humiliated again after axing their controversial deposit return scheme following an intervention by the UK government. Well, that's unfair. It wasn't an intervention by the UK government. It was the UK government saying, you haven't done your paperwork, but we're willing to give you this. So get it right. It will now not go ahead until October 2025, which would be the national one run out of Westminster, not the local one where the SNP can dabble their hands and touch a bit of green. The Scottish Greens Minister has spent months claiming it would definitely go ahead, even though it definitely would never going to go ahead. First in August 23, and then latterly in March 24, and now in never. But now she's admitted that it has been completely scrapped. During a ministerial statement at Holyrood, she accused the UK government of sabotaging the project as she hit out at them interfering with Scotland's initiative. She said the UK government decision excludes glass from Scotland's DRS at the 11th hour, contrary to the will of the Scottish Parliament and the all-UK basis on which we planned. Both of those are complete lies. Changes in the playing field for non-glass drinks producers, creating massive new uncertainty for businesses with conditions for interoperability with schemes in the rest of the UK, which have not even been legislated for, and even then may not be clear. You knew it was coming. You were told many times it was coming. You can't suddenly act surprised. She said, I told Parliament yesterday that our scheme cannot proceed as planned. And yet everyone, every single person who is an expert in the field of recycling or in the British glass industry says, yes, it can. Absolutely, yes, it can. She says, as of today, it is now clear that we have been left with no other option than to delay the launch of Scotland's DRS until October 2025 at the earliest, based on the UK government's currently stated aspirations. I remain committed to interoperable DRS schemes across the UK, provided that we can work in a spirit of collaboration, not imposition. Well, there's a lot of things that are imposed upon you, and you're going to have to deal with it. But your scheme would never have worked. And it was opened up to fraud from both ends, as I've said. Fraud from the people going in and defrauding the system, and people at the top end defrauding it back out. Anyway, she said, I wrote again last night to the UK government to urge ministers to reset a climate of trust and good faith to galvanise and retain the knowledge that has been built in Circularity Scotland and DRS partners in Scotland. Well, the DRS partners in Scotland will now be going, can we have our money back? You know, we've invested in this. We need some money. We'd like you to pay it back now. Can you pay us our money? And then they'll send the boys round, because these are big businesses with very expensive lawyers. And they don't want to wait for their money. But this woman is just basically lying through her teeth. It wasn't the government's intervention. It wasn't the government that were late with the paperwork. It wasn't the government that didn't fill in the impact statements. In fact, it was the government that were trying to help you all along by saying, yeah, well, we'll give you this, we'll give you this, we'll give you this to encourage you. But they were never, ever going to give them glass, because the British glass industry is lobbying at the moment, saying taking glass into this system will damage the excellent system that's already in place. But she doesn't want that, because it's not her idea. She needs to make her mark and have her legacy. Well, her legacy is one of failure and one of stupidity, but you wouldn't expect anything less from the likes of the Greens. Well done. Glad you cancelled it. It's the first sensible thing you've done since you put your backside in that chair in, 2 years ago. So well done to you. I'll come up and we will laugh and round off. We knew this would happen. We knew from day one this scheme was never going to work. Everybody at every stage was saying it was wrong. It only takes the briefest lookovers to see where all the flaws are, provided you got a brain, which is in fact very sadly short supply in the Greens and the SNP. And so about, like I say, as soon as they heard that they were delaying it, we all knew that was it, it's going to be scrapped. And they fought, and they were issuing ultimatums, and it was just never it was never going to happen. But even everyone in the industry was saying it wasn't good. So why did they push on? You know, we know it's all to do with money. So now they are utterly finished with that idea. It can be scrapped, it can be rolled up. She can go back and have another bright idea and see if she's got time to push that one forward. Although I think really Humza Yousaf needs to grow a pair, grow a spine, and say, actually no, I tell you what, we're done, you're out. I can't be putting up with people who cause so much grief, get nothing done and make me look like a fool. That's what he'd do if he was a leader. But of course that isn't what's going to happen, because he isn't a leader. Oh well, it's a shame, isn't it? Mind you, that said, while she's there, she is comedy gold. I shall stop now. Thank you very much for listening. If you like what you're seeing here on the channel, please hit that subscribe button. Leave a like, leave a comment, please share the video. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, recycle your own glass, and don't ever listen to Lorna Slater, or as we like to call her, do you remember her? Because I think she might be out soon. Goodbye.